So the thing that I found fascinating about your book is that in the past I've looked at and talked about dark money and the groups, Arabella Advisors, George Soros, all this kind of stuff, defund democracy or whatever it's called, demand justice. But for the
Yes.
first time, and this is why I was referencing the map that's in your book, you show the groups, you show what they're doing, and then where it's going to. So we're going to have it up on the screen here. But for those people who are listening or can't have microscopic reading ability, give us a couple examples of how, like, who these groups are, what they're trying to do, and how they're infiltrating the agencies.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot. So as you mentioned, my grand chart, I call it my Sheldon Whitehouse chart. It's a very
Who is
beautiful mind.
senator from Rhode Island?
Yes. And he's the guy who's always complaining about dark money on the right. And it's like, boy, do I have a story for you, Mr. Senator. But if you go through, the top line is big donors, and pretty much their role is just sending money. There's another line that is people who are donors and influencers. And then you have four massive actually, I think it's five massive blocks for each of the different influence campaigns where a lot of woke activist groups are in these groups. And then I have these lines, they're all over the place, going to federal agencies. And there are 438 agencies in the federal government. And of course, I don't have room on the chart for all 438 of them, but I have the clearest examples. So one of the big people I always talk about with this is Tracy Stone Manning. She is notorious for writing a letter on behalf of eco-terrorists who were doing tree spiking decades ago. And then President Biden decided he would nominate her to lead the Bureau of Land Management. She was at one of the woke climate alarmist groups. And then she went into the Bureau of Land Management. And now, after the Biden administration, she's back to a woke climate activist group. And so that's the revolving door aspect. Then there's an organization called Demos, which, a little known Illinois state senator by the name of Barack Obama was a founding board member of this group. Demos wrote an executive order, and this executive order would tell federal agencies to become voter registration offices so that you would have federal agencies, in their normal cause of business. When somebody goes to apply for food stamps, the bureaucrat would say, "Oh, by the way, do you want to register to vote?" And their idea was that most of the people who are applying for federal handouts are probably going to vote in a certain direction, shall we say. This group wrote this executive order. This executive order was part of the H.R. 1, the Democrats' big protecting democracy bill in 2021. Well, that bill passes the Democratic House, fails in the Democratic Senate, never was even brought up for a vote, but Biden decided to implement parts of it anyway. And he implemented it by taking the order written by Demos, essentially copy paste, signs this executive order, then tasks his administration, each of the different agencies, to go to Demos for advice on how to implement this executive order. Meanwhile, a few of the big people at Demos went over to head OIRA and a few other major federal agencies. So this influence campaign is throughout. We talk about who was really calling the shots in the Biden administration. When you have this man who, all of America saw how with it he was during that first debate with President Trump in 2024. But before that, everybody, all the media was deciding, oh, let's hide this. Let's make sure that the American people don't raise questions about whether Biden is compos mentis. Well, who's really calling the shots? How did the president of the United States, theoretically the most powerful man on earth, get forced to drop out of a presidential election midway through? And part of my answer to that is this cabal, this vast network of these dark money funders like George and Alex Soros, Arabella Advisors, and the nonprofits they created, the really powerful money behind the Democratic Party, colluding with all of these nonprofits. I hope that my book has the research to lift back the curtain and show what exactly was going on and why it didn't seem to matter to so many people on the left that the president was barely there.